So, namaskar everybody, all the participants. Namaskar to all the listeners for today's panel discussion. This is a continuance of our series of panel discussions. The first time we had it was on a different topic. Today we have chosen a topic of does God exist and how we can prove that. लोगों के मन में अक्सर सवाल रहता है कि हम कभी जाते हैं, लोगों में चर्चाएं होती है, तो ये लोगों के मन में इस चीज की दिलचस्पी होती है कि हम जाने कि ईश्वर का अस्तित्व है कि नहीं है, भगवान का, परमात्मा का अस्तित्व है कि नहीं है। ये बहुत ही कॉमन डिस्कशन रहता है लोगों के मन में। तो आज हम उसी विषय पे चर्चा करेंगे और उसका अगर अस्तित्व है तो उसको हम सिद्ध कैसे कर पाएंगे, क्या हम सिद्ध कर भी सकते हैं कि नहीं कर सकते हैं, बहुत सारी सवाल हैं। तो these questions of does God exist and how we can prove that, this is going to be the discussion of today. We have Brother Ananta who is joining us for the first time in this panel discussion. He is going to be bringing some perspective in the discussion in form of some questions. ब्रदर अनंता ने आज ज्वाइन किया है, वो कुछ बीच बीच में जब भी कोई सवाल होगा वो पूछते रहेंगे। और माई सेल्फ आचार्य धर्म प्रेमानंद अवधूत, वी ऑल्सो आर ज्वाइंड विथ आचार्य नित्य सुंदरानंद अवधूत, द आचार्य पूर्ण देवानंद अवधूत, and Sri Lalit Parmi ji, and Didi Anand, Vinita Anand ji. So there are total 6 of us. To start the discussion, I would like to request Didi Vinita Anand ji to open this discussion, and then we all will join into that. So Didi Vinita Anand ji, please. This is a very ancient discussion. The first question is, why do we even need to talk about that? हम लोगों को ये भगवान के बारे में बात करने की जरूरत ही क्यों है? तो the response for that is, from the time immemorial, शुरुआत से ही मनुष्य सभ्यता, जब से मानव सभ्यता बनी है, right from that time, people have realized something different happening. बिजली कड़कती है, the lightning, the force of the wind, हवाओं का तेज चलना, बड़े बड़े पहाड़, big mountains. So these kind of things, this phenomena has been happening. The power of the nature is expressed, and in older times people also were able to observe the movement of the planets and the patterns, everything. So there was some kind of doubt in the mind of people that there is some unknown force, there is some unknown entity which is controlling everything. So the very first thought of human mind was that we all are entities which is controlled by some kind of force, and they did not have a particular answer. So they started to come up with all these kind of ritual worship, ritual belief. They thought that this power is lying somewhere, and they started to come up with the idea of God. Some people called, Ishwar, Allah, Paramatma, whatever, different kind of names in different languages. But the idea that there is some force there which is controlling everybody. Later on, what happened that many of our thinkers from the past, we can say our rishis, the sages from the past, and scientists of today, even until today, they started to explore in this idea, because the existence of some kind of force, it is very hard to deny. हमारे अगल बगल कुछ ऐसा एक फोर्स, एक ऐसी शक्ति तो है जो हर चीजों को नियंत्रण कर रही है, उसको नकारना बहुत ही मुश्किल है। तो इस चीज को लोगों ने रियलाइज करके कि पुराने जमाने में ऋषि मुनि, साथ साथ आज के वैज्ञानिक इस विषय पे अभी भी सोचते रहते हैं कि वो फोर्स क्या चीज है। सो दीज थिंकर्स इन द पास्ट, they came up with different ideas, and they started to define what is that supreme entity. And one of the word they came up is what is Brahma. Brahma means the ultimate, Brahma, which is the greatest, biggest, whatever, So they came up with this concept of Brahma, and they started to define Brahma in different aspects. In old scriptures, in Taittiriya Upanishad, in Brahmananda Vali, in that section of the Upanishad, they are defining Brahma as Uh, Brahma as Ananta means endless. Brahma also means it is a knowledge, and Brahma is Satyam. So Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahmam. That's how they defined there. So this was one expression. Later on, they started to define Brahma as Brihatvad Brahma, Brihanatvad Brahma, means Brahma is beyond conception of human intellect. It's Brihat and also has the capability of make others also great. Then later on, the people started to progress and they came up with different ideas. Our guru Sri Syanand Murthy ji also at the end started to give that answer that Shiva Sakyatmakam Brahma. So various ideas started to formulate what is that God. So in today's discussion, let us explore and go deeper into that so that at least we can make sense of this idea of God from our very day-to-day life, very layman's psychology. एक साधारण जनता के मन में सवाल है तो उनके भाषा में ईश्वर चीज को हम कैसे समझ सकते हैं. This is the discussion we should carry forward. So I'm going to request any one of you, maybe start with Dada Purna Devanand ji, to carry forward this discussion, please.
नहीं तीसरा तो ललित परिमुझ थे.
Okay, Lalit ji, yeah, please. Or any one of you can say and you can interrupt and also come in. Lalit ji, please.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you have started very nicely, Dharm Premanand ji. You have led the basis for the discussion. That's very good. You began from the ancient times, which is true. To continue from there where you have left, I would add that yes, in past civilizations, the humanity reached to a conclusion that God is there, and this conclusion remained in the form of belief and no belief, which in Indian philosophy we term as astic and nastic, or in the European world it's called as believers and non-believers. So the world was segregated into believers and non-believers, where the most important part became faith or emotion. So they became connected, and those who were not connected or who rebelled were punished, and they had different kinds of punishment. And that's what happened in ancient times and medieval times. This is what ordinary people started believing. Although it always remained the job of a specialist to realize God. Realization of God, as Dada Dharm Premanand just before said, the Upanishad age or the Upanishad Rishi, the realization was only privileged people could realize. Everybody could not realize. Everybody was told by the seniors, by the elders, by the great people that, see, this is the way you should worship. God is there. God has guided you. And in the name of God, we had so many things which formed the basis of society, like morality, like marriage, like honesty, like being faithful, like not being a liar, and all that. This happened in past. Now coming quickly to the present era, which is the reflection of the scientific temperament that happened in past 400 years. And whatever has happened in past 400 years due to the development of science, it has come directly against the old orthodox religion. It all began from Europe. Europe became a center of civilization where the first antagonism was the church. And the church people were so much against these new scientists like Galileo, like Copernicus. They were actually burnt. And people who were talking against church, against old ideas of religion, they had to suffer a lot. So science began questioning the old definitions of God. That is why in the modern times we had great philosophers like Nietzsche. One of his famous book is God is Dead. It was a very revolutionary book in Europe where he had so many followers, and a statement like this, that God is dead. But now the real question is, does God exist? And if God exists, how are we going to prove? The old God died because of old dogmatic beliefs, dogmatic methods, and conservative methods, superstitious methods. The new scientific era has led us to rational thinking to reasonable thinking and scientific thinking, where God is not to be just followed or believed, but realized. We have to realize if God exists or not. So how do we realize God? It cannot be just a statement like this that God exists and one follows. Because most of the people who have become intelligent, who have evolved, they would like to question, how can we just follow what is written in a book? All ancient scriptures are being questioned by scientific temperament people. Genius people, they are questioning old books, whether they are Indian books or whether they are Christian books. The answer to this is God is the basic life stuff from where the whole universe is being created. Modern science is moving towards that direction. Science in its journey found that energy is the cause of the universe. But this energy is part of something else. This energy, which is a blind energy, cannot be the cause of universe. There is something else which is the cause behind energy. You may name it, whatever name you want to give, you may give it. And those people who are ready to experiment on this path, and how does one experiment? One has to first understand that the way a scientist understand atomic energy or mental force, or they are creating so many new gadgets, new scientific apparatuses, which cannot be done by an ordinary man. An ordinary man only uses those apparatus, only uses those gadgets. It's the job of a specialist. So if everyone wants to become a specialist, then one has to work hard and move on the path of knowing God. That path has to be walked upon. That path is introversial path. That path is knowing yourself, finding God within you. And that is also a risky path. If you are able to find, if you are able to discover and realize the self within, or a glimpse of that Godhood, then you are lucky, or you will accept it. Otherwise, you cannot accept it. This is one way. Anyone can stop me if I am crossing the 3-minute time set for me, because
yeah, Dada, maybe you can continue further, but maybe you, if you want to wrap it up, then we can continue.
Okay, fine, because one doesn't know while speaking, one doesn't know the time limit. So what I said is, those who really want to know God, they have to know it practically. There are other people who do not have that inner capacity to know. They follow what parampara says or what tradition says, or they already have a set method of accepting God in the form of a image, in the form of an idol, or in the form of a what we say written in the scriptures in the form of text. So they adore that, they respect that, and it is a kind of veneration, it is a kind of respect which they give to that book or to an idol or to an image. But deep down they realize that we are not completely knowing God. Those who have known, those who have tasted, they tell that the experience of God or the experience of godliness is termed as bliss, is actually a huge abundance of happiness or peace. Many people say or relate God with peace. Many people relate God with bliss. So God finally cannot be accepted as just one person or an image of a person or an idol of a person. The modern times, the scientific era demands this, that God has to be realized within. And if you taste God, it is an absolute entity, which is a huge ocean of bliss. So if you experience bliss for 5 seconds, if you taste that nectar, that immortality for just 5 seconds or 1 minute, you should be happy and glad that you have tasted God, and you should be one of those people who can say that yes, God exists. And if one has not tasted, one is free to answer this question in a way that yes, God doesn't exist for me. I mean, God doesn't exist for that person who has not tasted bliss. But even if God doesn't exist for that person may say that yes, God does exist, but I'm still searching, I'm still finding, I'm not found yet. It's like people chasing money. Some people may have earned crores of rupees, some people have not. So God is also like that. God has to be chased, God has to be found, God has to be realized. And the method is introversial method. Method is going deep within, and touching the real shore of your self. And once you taste it, you become a person who can declare on top of his voice that yes, God does exist. So here I would like to stop and take a break, and then the next speaker can take it from here.
Okay, so now I'm requesting, see, I may not remember the order, but you can also remind me, but maybe next is Dada Pundevanji.
Yeah. As Dada Dharma Premananda has asked the question is whether God exists or not. Arthat, does God exist? The question. So when we get the question, so we need to know who is asking the question. There are two types of people. The first one, they have a inquisitiveness or curiosity to know the truth of life, or truth of creation, or the cause behind the creation, or an unseen entity. So these things only happens when people are having inquisitiveness and the hunger for that unknown entity. And the second one is they don't have the inquisitiveness to know the reality of life, or that is the cause of the world, the cause of this universe. They just bluntly say, oh, there is nothing like God. And there is nothing like God. It is said by, there are a number of reasons which already our Lalit Paramuji has explained, that dogmatic religion, they couldn't define the word of God. At the same time, whatever they define, but that is not very much practical in their life. It is not seen practical. Whatever they say, they follow something different. So one is the dogmatic faith of God, another is non-believer of God. And the people who is having really the inquisitiveness. So our question and the answer is for those who is having the progressive mind and they have the inquisitiveness. So people want the proof of existence of God. The first thing which can be proved and which is unproved. There are three types of things we see in this world. The first one is the crude material world, which we can perceive. We can perceive it, at the same time, we can make some concept about those things, perceived things. And there are some other things which is not crude material, and they doesn't have the corporal structure too. So only we can make perception or conception in the aspect of the corporal structure or material world. But when we go to the subtler level, then there is no method or there is no instrument by which we can apprehend the existence of the world of mind. The science of today has not yet been able to define the existence of mind. Only a general psychology says some functionaries and the functions of mind, but how mind is made up, what are the elements by which the mind is made up. So science has not yet been able to reach the realm of sight totally. At the same time, the topic we are talking about, that is the existence of God. So it is accepted by the philosophers, accepted by the rishis. Yes, there is a unseen force. And that unseen force is also narrated by a great scientist or father of modern physics, is Sir Einstein. He has already mentioned in his letter that there is a supreme intelligent force. And that intelligent force is controlling everything. He is controlling at the same time, controlling a force, power of attraction. And that power of attraction is nothing but it is love. So God is love and God is attraction. God is the nucleus, the most attractive powers, because when we see the different structures like atoms, we see a nucleus, electron is revolving. When we see the solar system, we see the sun, a total 9 planets are revolving around the sun. The sun becomes the control of this planetary system.
What happened? He's lost connection. No. Dada, you went offline.
Sorry, network again started.
Yeah.
So few more seconds for me. Network is disturbing. So the fourth thing is that he has said love is attraction. Or in this, when we see the cosmology, entire universe, celestial bodies, comets, meteors, whatever we see, whether it is animate or inanimate, is it corporal or non-corporal, everything is being controlled by a power, and everything is being attracted by a supreme nucleus. That very supreme nucleus is defined as a God. Those who takes love, they are also, those who gives love, they are also enlightened. This is the version of Einstein. So he has already realized this thing, that behind every creation, behind every action, behind every happening, there is a power. That power controls and administrating everything. So that very unseen power, which is almighty, it is beyond the perception and the conception of mind. So if someone wants the proof, that please give me proof of God, existence of God. So God is not something like laddu, peda, and some sweetmeats or any cookies that we go to the supermarket, eat, and they serve to the people. But it is the stratum, it is the realm which is beyond the periphery of mind too. Just when you are suppose, just an example, if you are in a hill or mountain, okay, by sitting in a mountain, can you see or realize the phenomenon of the ocean? You cannot, because when there is a hilly area, mountain area, you see the small rivers, rivulets, and the small rivers, they become big rivers that merge into the ocean. And when people go near to the ocean, what they see? Oh, thousands and hundreds of rivers, if are merged together, still the flow or existence of ocean are not disturbed. So ocean is vast, which can accommodate thousands of rivers accommodate the waters, thousands and thousands of rivers. So when you reach the on the bank of ocean, what do you see? Oh, it is not a river. It is an endless, water flow, endless reservoir of water. It cannot be fathomed. So the existence of God is something like that. When you come across of your physical world, then enter into the psychic world, then you transcend yourself. You transform your psychic existence into such a state where entire aspiration of mind is pinnacled. Entire aspiration, entire thing is pinnacled. And when you reach to the end of that ocean, then you see the existence a real full of bliss, real full of perennial source of current or a perennial source of consciousness. So that very consciousness cannot be realized on the bank of an ocean. Only you can fathom the depth of that ocean when you enter to that vast reservoir of consciousness. And that very vast reservoir of consciousness is Supreme Brahma itself, because there is no English synonyms for Brahma. So biblical order, they say God, but there are hundreds of words. But only one thing, the words by word, we cannot define the existence of God. Only it can be realized through gradual upgradation of transformation of the self. Thank you so much.
Namaskar. Next, I think I would like to request, I just want to make a soft reminder on the time limits. Next, I would like to request is Didi Vinita Anandji. If you are ready, you can please start.
अरे आप मुझे बोल रहे हैं ना?
हाँ, अगर आप शुरू कर सकती हैं तो अच्छा है.
Thank you very much. This is very nice discussion and very nice question, but genuine question for today's human society. I will continue it in Hindi. I hope this is fine for all.
Yes, sure.
And my big brothers always said very nicely, so I will not go on that point. I will come on the point, actually. Direct, I will come on the point. इस विश्व में जितनी भी संरचनाएं हैं, जो क्रिएशंस हैं, उन सब का एक सेंट्रल पॉइंट होता है, as Dada Lalit Parimus Dada said and Devanand Dada said. Yeah, I agree with them. और इसी तरह से ये विश्व ब्रह्मांड भी एक संरचना है, इसका भी एक सेंट्रल पॉइंट है, एक केंद्र बिंदु है, और ये केंद्र बिंदु ही आनंद घन चैतन्य सत्ता है, ब्लिसफुल कॉन्शियस एंटिटी. संपूर्ण सृष्टि उनके ही आकर्षण में बधी उनकी तरफ बढ़ रही है. तो इन आनंद घन चैतन्य सत्ता को ही परमात्मा भी कह सकते हैं, भगवान भी कह सकते हैं, गॉड भी कहते हैं. वेदों में इनको सच्चिद आनंद कहा गया है. इनसे ज्यादा सत्य कुछ और नहीं है, इनसे ज्यादा आनंदमय कुछ और नहीं है, और इनसे ज्यादा चैतन्य कुछ और नहीं है. तो मनुष्य एक मन प्रधान जीव है. मनुष्य के मन की ये विशेषता है कि वो हमेशा सुख चाहता है, और जो कभी न खत्म हो, जो निरंतर बना रहे. और निरंतर रहने वाले सुख को सुखम अनंतम आनंदम, बाबा ने इसको आनंद सूत्रम में कहा है, सुखम अनंतम आनंदम. तो जैसे जैसे मनुष्य उस साधना के माध्यम से उस आनंद घन चैतन्य सत्ता के संपर्क में आता है, वो आनंद की गहराई बढ़ती जाती, वो कभी खत्म नहीं होती, वो बढ़ती जाती है. और धीरे धीरे मनुष्य का मन उसी आनंद में प्रतिष्ठित हो जाता है, उसी बृहत में प्रतिष्ठित हो जाता है। तो हम ये पाते हैं कि वो जो चूंकि ये सृष्टि ये उनका ही विकास है, उनका ही उसी आनंद घन चैतन्य सत्ता का विकास है स्थूल पदार्थ के रूप में। तो हर एक चीज में, हर एक वस्तु में उसी चेतना का अभिप्रकाश होता है जो प्रकृति के प्रभाव में है, जिसकी अभिव्यक्ति कम होती है। जहां प्रकृति का प्रभाव ज्यादा होता है वहां उस चेतना की अभिव्यक्ति कम होती है। मनुष्य पर उस चेतना, मनुष्य मन पर उस चेतना, उस प्योर कॉन्शियसनेस का की प्रतिछाया अधिक देखी जा सकती है। इसलिए मनुष्य को ये सुयोग प्राप्त है, उसके अंदर ये क्षमता है कि वो प्रयास करके उस बृहत तत्व में, उस परम तत्व में प्रतिष्ठित हो सके। जो लोग आध्यात्मिक साधना के द्वारा आत्म सानिध्य प्राप्त कर चुके हैं, वो लोग अपनी आत्मा के रूप में ही पूरे संसार को देखते हैं। वो ये उन्हें लगता है कि जो उनके अंदर है वही सबके अंदर है, जो मुझ में है वही सब में है। उनसे अगर ये सवाल पूछा जाए, वो प्रत्येक कण कण में उसी चेतना के, उसी चैतन्य चेतना के अभिप्रकाश को देखते हैं। तो वो इस सवाल के जवाब में यही कहेंगे कि सिर्फ परमात्मा का ही अस्तित्व है, दूसरा कुछ है ही नहीं। सिर्फ परमात्मा का अस्तित्व है, बाकी सारी चीजें तो उनके परिणाम स्वरूप है। अगर व्यक्ति है तो उसकी छाया है, अगर व्यक्ति नहीं है तो उसकी छाया भी नहीं होगी। कि हमारी क्षमता पर निर्भर करता है कि हम अपनी क्षमता का कितना विकास कर सकते हैं उनको जानने के लिए, हम अपनी आध्यात्मिक क्षमता का कितना विकास कर सकते हैं उनको समझने के लिए। जिस तरह से प्रकृति, आज वैज्ञानिकों ने बहुत सारी खोज की, प्रकृति के अंदर बहुत सारी चीजें छिपी थी जिसको उन्होंने डिस्कवर किया, अनकवर किया। ऐसा नहीं है कि प्रकृति के अंदर वो चीजें नहीं थी, वो थी, लेकिन धीरे धीरे मनुष्य ने अपनी क्षमता का विकास किया और प्रकृति के अंदर से वो चीजें खोज खोज करके सर्वग्राह्य बनाया। ठीक उसी तरह से ब्रह्म को समझने के लिए, गॉड को समझने के लिए हमें अपने आध्यात्मिक क्षमता का विकास करना होगा जिससे हम उनको समझ सकें। और कोई भी चीज, जब किसी भी चीज को टेस्ट करना होता है, प्रूफ करना होता है, जैसे एक फीवर है, फीवर को टेस्ट करने के लिए थर्मामीटर चाहिए, उससे टेस्ट हो जाता है। लेकिन जब ब्लड में बैक्टीरिया को टेस्ट करना होगा तो उसके लिए अलग लैब चाहिए, उसके लिए अलग इंस्ट्रूमेंट चाहिए। वायरस टेस्ट करना होगा तो उसके लिए अलग सेटअप चाहिए, एक्सपर्ट भी अलग होंगे। उसी तरह से जो चीजें हमारे इंद्रियों के प्रभाव में आती है, जो चीजें हमारे इंद्रियों के पकड़ में आती है, वो इंद्रिय ग्राह्य होती है, सेंसेशन उसको कहते हैं। ठीक उससे सटल जो चीजें होती हैं वो मनसा ग्राह्य होती है, वो विचारों के पकड़ में होती है, तो उनको परसेप्शन कहेंगे। वो वैचारिक स्तर पर काम करती, वो इनसे सटल होती है। लेकिन आत्मा, परमात्मा वो सबसे सूक्ष्म है, सटलर है, तो वो भाव ग्राह्यता में, वहां पे उनको देखा जा सकता है, वहां उनको समझा जा सकता है, उनको महसूस किया जा सकता है, उनको रियलाइज किया जा सकता है। और इसके लिए जिस तरह से किसी भी विषय को जानने के लिए पहले उसमें MA करना होता है, PhD करना होता है, फिर महारत हासिल होती है और हम एक्सपेरिमेंट करते हैं, उसी तरह से ब्रह्म को जानने के लिए भी एक गुरु की आवश्यकता होती है। और ये गुरु कोई और नहीं, स्वयं ब्रह्म ही गुरु के रूप में आते, क्योंकि उनके अलावा कोई उन तक पहुंचा ही नहीं सकता है। तो स्वयं ब्रह्म ही गुरु के रूप में शिष्य का मार्गनिर्देशन करते हैं। और उसके बाद एक ऐसा समय आता है जहां न गुरु को कहने के लिए कुछ रह जाता है, न शिष्य के सुनने के लिए कुछ रह जाता है। रह जाता है तो सिर्फ वो भाव, वो अवस्था, सारे विचारों और प्रकारों का तिरोहन हो चुका होता है। तो इनको समझा जा सकता है, रियलाइज किया जा सकता है, और इसके लिए आध्यात्मिक साधना का अभ्यास करना होगा। उसके प्रैक्टिस से, उसके प्रयास से ही हम इनको समझ सकते हैं और इन तक पहुंच सकते हैं, जो कि मनुष्य जीवन का सर्वोत्कृष्ट गोल है, सर्वोपलब्धि है, चरम लक्ष्य है। धन्यवाद।
दीदी धन्यवाद। आगे मैं रिक्वेस्ट करता हूं दादा नित्य सुंदरान जी से, उसके बाद हम लोग कुछ क्वेश्चंस लेंगे और उसके बाद फिर आगे देखेंगे कि चर्चा को आगे कैसे बढ़ाते हैं। तो दादा नित्य सुंदरान जी।
नमस्कार। आज का जो चर्चा का विषय है वो है डज गॉड एग्जिस्ट, क्या ईश्वर है या उसका अस्तित्व है, इस पर हम चर्चा करेंगे। भारतीय दर्शन शास्त्रों में मुख्यतः 6 प्रकार के दर्शन शास्त्रों का जिक्र मिलता है, जिसे हम षड दर्शन के नाम से जानते हैं। इन षड दर्शनों में 3 दर्शन नास्तिकवाद है तथा 3 आस्तिकवाद है। नास्तिकवाद का सब लोग मतलब जानते हैं, जो ईश्वर के अस्तित्व को नहीं मानते हैं, और आस्तिकवाद दर्शन उसे कहते हैं जो ईश्वर के अस्तित्व को मानते हैं, स्वीकार करते हैं। अब रहा इसकी वैज्ञानिक विश्लेषण, तो हम लोग सभी जानते हैं, लोग कहते हैं कि आज विज्ञान बहुत उन्नति प्रगति कर चुके हैं, लेकिन अगर वास्तविक दृष्टिकोण से देखा जाए तो विज्ञान अभी भी वहां तक नहीं पहुंच पाई है जहां इसे पहुंचनी चाहिए। हाँ, प्रगतिशील है, और ऐसा देखा गया है कि एक वैज्ञानिक का जो विश्लेषण है परवर्ती काल में वही बाद में बदल जाता है। तो ये कोई भी ये तथ्य को शाश्वत सनातन सत्य नहीं मान सकते, ये परिवर्तन होते रहता है, उसमें कुछ न कुछ बिगड़ते बनते रहता है। इसकी जो धारणाएं अवधारणाएं उसमें और परिणति परिपुष्टि होते रहते हैं। मुख्यतः विज्ञान के नजरों में जो रिसर्च का विषय है वो है पदार्थ विज्ञान, जीव विज्ञान। श्री आनंद मूर्ति जी जब दर्शन की बात करते थे तो उन्होंने पहली बार मनुष्य समाज में मनोविज्ञान को भी विज्ञान की शाखा में रखा, लेकिन बहुत सारे लोगों को ये डाइजेस्ट नहीं हुआ। लेकिन अंततः आज के वैज्ञानिक मनोविज्ञान को भी विज्ञान की श्रेणी में दर्जा दिए है। जो आखिरी है अध्यात्म विज्ञान, विज्ञान इस चीज को पूर्णतया स्वीकार नहीं किए है, क्योंकि ये इतने सूक्ष्म है कि इस पर उनका हो सकता है ध्यान नहीं गया, या हो सकता है कि कुछ लोगों ने चेष्टा किया लेकिन बहुत सारी चीजें उपलब्धि नहीं हुई, इस कारण से इसमें आगे नहीं बढ़ पाया। अब जहां तक कि अस्तित्व को प्रमाणित करने की बात है, तो जो पदार्थ हैं, जो ऑब्जेक्ट हैं, उनको तो साइंस आसानी से प्रमाणित कर देते हैं। जो एब्स्ट्रैक्ट है, जो सूक्ष्म है, अति सूक्ष्म है, जो इंद्रियों के परे हैं, जिसे अतीन्द्रिय के माध्यम से अनुभूति किया जा सकता है, विज्ञान प्रायः उस चीज को टच नहीं करता है। तो अब बहुत लोग ये जानते हैं कि जब विज्ञान की भाषा में बात करेंगे तो अगर देखा जाए तो विज्ञान मतलब जीव विज्ञान की जब बात होगी, एनाटॉमी की बात होगी, तो उसमें ब्रेन तो आ जाते हैं, लेकिन माइंड कहीं एग्जिस्ट नहीं करता है। तो वैज्ञानिकों को अंततः मानना पड़ेगा कि माइंड भी एग्जिस्ट करता है। अब जिस तरह हमारे पूर्व वक्ता लोग इन पर बहुत सारे अपना मंतव्य और वक्तव्य दिए हैं, मैं इसको दोहराऊंगा नहीं, लेकिन मन का भी एक बहुत स्तर है। श्री श्री आनंद मूर्ति जी कहते हैं कि मन का 5 लेयर्स है। वो है काममय कोश, मनोमय कोश, अतिमानस कोश, विज्ञानमय कोश, हिरण्यमय कोश। तो जब काममय कोश में मनुष्य का मन रहता है तो वो फील करता है। फिर जब मनोमय में जाता है तो उसमें विलिंग जगता है कुछ करने की, वो समझने लगता है, उसको कुछ न कुछ अनुभूति होने लगता है। फिर अगर वो अतिमानस में जाता है तो उसमें थिंकिंग होने लगता है। जब वो विज्ञानमय में चला जाता है तो डीप थिंकिंग हो जाता है, सटल थिंकिंग होने लगता है। और जब मन अगर 5वां चैम्बर्स में लेयर में जब जो हिरण्यमय कोश में जब पहुंच जाते हैं मन, तो उसमें मनुष्य का पूर्ण विकास हो जाता है, जिसको कि बौद्धिक कह सकते हैं, जिसको कि इंग्लिश में कॉन्साइंस और संस्कृत में विवेक कहते हैं। तो जो इस अवस्था में अपने मन को ले गया, तो उसके लिए ये जो अति इंद्रिय की चीज है, इसको अनुभव कर पाना सुलभ हो जाता है। वो इस चीज को अनुभूत करने के लिए सक्षम हो जाते हैं। लेकिन ये वही बात है कि मान लीजिए कि जैसे कि इसका मैं एक एग्जांपल दूं, जैसे कि आज विश्व में हर जगह ये लोग जानते हैं कि H2O = वाटर। आज भी कुछ ऐसे ट्राइब लोग हैं, फार्मर लोग हैं, गांव के लोग हैं, उनको बोलेंगे कि भाई गैस से पानी बनता है, वो बोलेंगे कैसे मूर्ख जैसी बात करती है, क्योंकि उनके समझ से परे, क्योंकि उनका जो बौद्धिक विकास है वो उतना नहीं हो पाया है। तो साइंटिफिक लैंग्वेज को भी अगर उनको बोलेंगे तो वो इस चीज को स्वीकार नहीं करते। तो इनके लिए क्या आवश्यकता है कि इनके लिए ज्ञान की जरूरत पड़ता है, उसको अनुभव की जरूरत पड़ता है। अगर मान लीजिए किसी साइंटिस्ट से अगर गांव में पूछ बैठे कि भाई आप बोलते हैं कि गैस से आप पानी बनाते हैं, आप बना के दिखाइए, उनके लिए संभव नहीं है। वो जानते हुए उसको नहीं बता सकते हैं, क्योंकि इसके लिए उसको लैब की जरूरत पड़ेगा, वहां उसको जा करके फिर उसमें मिलाना पड़ेगा एक मात्रा के अनुसार, तब वो जा करके पानी बनाना संभव है। तो उसी तरह ये जो आम तौर पर जो बौद्धिक रूप से पूर्ण विकसित नहीं है, जो कि विवेकी नहीं है, जिसमें बौद्धिक जागृत नहीं है, अगर वो बात करते हैं, अगर उनको आप बोलेंगे कि भगवान एग्जिस्ट करता है, तो वो कुतर्क करने लगते हैं, क्योंकि उनका उतना बौद्धिक विकास नहीं हुआ है। अब सवाल उठता है कि मैं कैसे परमात्मा की अनुभूति कर सकता हूं? तो इसका ठीक इसी तरह का एक प्रश्न स्वामी विवेकानंद जी जब वो रामकृष्ण परमहंस के सानिध्य में आए, तो नरेंद्र देव ने अपने गुरुदेव से पूछा कि गुरुदेव क्या भगवान है, अर्थात ईश्वर है? उन्होंने कहा बिल्कुल है। फिर कहा क्या आप उन्हें देखते हैं? बोलते हैं बिल्कुल मैं देख सकता हूँ, जिस तरह के मैं तुम्हें देख रहा हूँ उस तरह मैं भगवान को देखता हूँ। तो फिर सवाल किए कि क्या आप मुझे दिखा सकते हैं? तो उन्होंने कहा बिल्कुल मैं दिखा सकता हूँ। तो बोले ठीक है, कल तुम सुबह आना। फिर जब सुबह आए तो उन्होंने नरेंद्र देव तालाब में के पास ले गया और पानी में ले जा करके उन्होंने कहा तुम झुको, और उसके सर को पानी में डुबा दिया। अब नरेंद्र देव अपनी जीवन रक्षा के लिए उसने पानी से अपने सर को ऊपर उठाने की बार बार चेष्टा करने लगा। थोड़े देर रखने के बाद फिर पानी से गुरुदेव रामकृष्ण ने उसका सर को उठाया, फिर उसके बाद फिर से पानी में डाल दिया। तो फिर इस तरह से वो बार बार नरेंद्र देव चेष्टा करता रहा अपने प्राण रक्षा के लिए। तब रामकृष्ण ने कहा कि जिस प्रकार तुमको प्राण रक्षा के लिए तुम इतने प्रयासरत हो, मतलब तुम इतने व्यग्र हो, व्याकुल हो, उस तरह से अगर किसी भी इंसान को परमात्मा को अनुभूति करने के लिए, चेष्टा करने के लिए जब उसमें प्रगाढ़ ऐसना जग जाएगी तो वो भी परमात्मा का दर्शन कर सकता है, अनुभूति कर सकता है। तो बहुत सारे चीजें हैं, इसीलिए जैसे कि जीवन में हर लोग प्यार करते हैं, लेकिन आप उसको पूछिए कि भाई प्यार क्या है, तो इसको व्यक्त कर पाना बहुत मुश्किल है, क्योंकि भाषा की एक अपनी सीमा है। भाषा अपने दिल की जो भावना है, अनुभूति है, उसको व्यक्त करने का एक जरिया है, लेकिन इसका भी एक सीमा है। तो हर चीज को, सूक्ष्म अभिव्यक्ति को भाषा व्यक्त नहीं कर सकता है, इसीलिए लोग जानते हैं कि ईश्वर का अस्तित्व है, लेकिन उसको व्यक्त नहीं कर पाते हैं इसकी। लेकिन हो सकता है कि आने वाले समय में साइंस इतना डेवलप कर जाए, इंस्ट्रूमेंट कुछ ऐसे बना दे जिससे कि प्रमाणित किया जा सकता है। अब सवाल उठता है कि ये जो जैसे कि शब्द आया है ब्रह्म, अब इसमें कई तरह के, कुछ लोग बोलते हैं भगवान, कुछ लोग गॉड, कुछ लोग ईश्वर, कुछ लोग ब्रह्म। अब इसका हर एक शब्द का अलग अलग अर्थ है। क्योंकि अंग्रेजी भाषा उतना समृद्ध नहीं है बनस्पत कंपेयर टू संस्कृत, इसलिए इंग्लिश में प्राय शब्दों का वो सटीक शब्दार्थ नहीं है, शब्द नहीं है। जैसे कि ब्रह्मांड का, अब उसका इंग्लिश में यूनिवर्स, जिसका कि एकदम लेना देना नहीं। ब्रह्म का जो अंड है, अर्थात ये जो सृष्ट जगत है जिससे कि इसकी परिकल्पना हुई है, वही ब्रह्मांड है। वैसा तो अगर सृष्टि है, ये ब्रह्मांड है, तो इसका जो रचना करने वाला, सृष्टि करने वाला, वो ब्रह्म कहीं कहीं है। वो सूक्ष्म है, उसको आज हम नहीं समझ पाते हैं, या समझने के बावजूद भी हम उसको व्यक्त नहीं कर पाते, ये अपनी मजबूरी है। शास्त्र में कहा गया है कि ईश्वर क्या है। शास्त्र में कहा गया है ईसति जैसे ईश्वर, दुनिया की जड़ चेतन तमाम सत्ता का जो नियंत्रण करता है वही ईश्वर है। ब्रह्म क्या है? शिव सत्यात्मकम ब्रह्म, मतलब आनंद मूर्ति जी ने कहते हैं शिव और शक्ति की जो मिलन है, मिश्रित नाम है, यूनियन नाम है, वही ब्रह्म है। और श्री श्री आनंद मूर्ति जी क्रिएशन ऑफ यूनिवर्स की जब चर्चा की, उसमें बिल्कुल साइंटिफिक और व्यवहारिक रूप से उन्होंने विस्तार से समझाया है कि सृष्टि की कैसी रचना हुई है। और उसी में उसने कहा है कि शिव शक्ति विभागेन कल्पना जायते इति सृष्टि। तो चूंकि यहाँ बहुत समय नहीं है, इसलिए मैं अपने वचन को विराम देता हूँ। अगर फिर मौका लगेगा, टर्न आएगा, तो मैं कुछ न कुछ और मैं बताऊंगा।
नमस्कार, आप सब लोगों को धन्यवाद। थैंक यू एवरीवन। Ananta, I think we will take some questions from you. I am going to give you a quick kind of wrap around as to what everyone spoke. Dada Nitya Sundaran ji talked about how people have understood the concept of Brahma in different scriptures, and also in reference to how Baba has explained Brahma. Sister Vinita ji, she also talked about how the form of Brahma is a pure consciousness, pure happiness, pure bliss. And she talked about experience. One needs to experience, go deep within oneself, and need to know that. And this is something which Dada Nitya Sundaran ji also told, that it's difficult to define by words. Dada Purnadevanand ji also took a view on the concept of Brahma from a perspective of how different people have explained it, and how human beings have developed certain capabilities to understand some things, and certain things they cannot understand, especially when the concept is easy to understand. When it is subtle, it becomes difficult, and when it is really the subtlest, it becomes even the most difficult to understand. So the idea of God is the subtlest. So this is kind of, more or less, I just wanted to give a kind of wrap around. So your questions, please.
Right. Thank you for giving me that synopsis, and thank you for including me in the panel. So I would just like to take the time to backtrack a bit and get to know some of the basics around our discussion around the question, does God exist or not? So, Lalit Parmuji, you mentioned Nietzsche and Nietzsche's idea that he was famous for saying God is dead. Nietzsche is credited as, his full name is Friedrich Nietzsche. He's credited as one of the first atheists in the world, but Nietzsche wasn't really concerned about the existence of God, but rather that the belief in God and everything that comes along with a belief in God is problematic for a number of reasons. One time, when questioned about this, Nietzsche said that even if God were to walk into the room and he were to be proven his existence right then and there, Nietzsche would kill him. The death of God to Nietzsche wasn't that God ceased to exist. Rather, he meant that all of the wickedness and the corruption of Christianity was based around a lie that connected virtue with God, and this connection of virtue with God gave the church an authority. And he called that authority hypocritical because of the ways that they were acting. Nietzsche's big idea goes much deeper than not believing in God. His extraordinary contribution was to design a form of redemption and salvation for a world that had gone beyond belief, a world that had gone beyond good and evil and simple dualities. Now, Nietzsche's world was a world in which science and industry was changing the world very rapidly. Science is a method primarily. So we know it as the scientific method. The scientific method entails forming a hypothesis, testing that hypothesis, and then arriving at conclusions based on the results of that test. In this world that is changing so rapidly for Nietzsche, dogmatic faith alone was causing a problem, and the problem that rationalism, i.e. science, could not solve by its own. So science is about asking the right questions, and science is a way of asking questions in a reliable way, that if everyone follows the same format, we can arrive at what scientists refer to as objectivity, that you can arrive at the overall truth by asking a standardized method. Now, that being said, maybe science can't be used for proof of God, but it certainly can help develop an understanding of experience based on what every panelist has said, that Brahma, God, Paramatma, is equivalent to the ultimate, and the ultimate is manifested in different aspects, and it's beyond conception, to use the words of Dharma Premanandaji, and that using other people's words, that finding God within you, and you can know God, and God is an experience. It is a taste of this blissful state, like an ocean of our primordial creation, and that you can come to experience God, but maybe you cannot come to give proof of God. And so if feeling a connection to God is an experience, how then, the question is, to establish this experience, to have this experience? In this way, I see science may be a path to the spiritual, because science can be used in a number of ways to help the spiritual life. Science can be used to fine-tune our understanding of the mind and the functions of the brain. It can be used to see how the brain functions and possibly the mechanisms behind why meditation can change the way in which we experience our phenomenal reality. Likewise, gaining knowledge grants an appreciation and respect for all things in the universe. And if we are to equate God with God the Creator, then developing an appreciation for all of God's creations could be seen as a path to getting closer to knowing who the Creator actually is. Belief and disbelief are irrelevant in this matter. Whether you believe in God or you don't believe in God is not a question of experience, it's a question of knowledge. It's what you do that really matters. And so my question that I have for all of the panelists is, all of this being said, there are still many scientists that claim God doesn't exist. And on the other hand, there are many sages and people that claim that God does exist. Does everyone think that science is fundamentally atheistic? So theistic meaning it believes in God, and atheistic meaning it does not believe in God. If I were to ask you, is science conducive to the belief of God, or is science atheistic? I am very curious to hear what your answers are. Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you, Brother Ananta, for your question. I'll open this question for everyone. I'm saying that maybe we take 3 minutes each on this one. Who wants to start first? Anybody has liking to start first, or maybe I can suggest
Yeah,
to
you may, please.
Should I start? You are saying?
Yeah.
I was going to ask your name, Dada.
I can also start. I can also start. You want to start, you start.
Okay, then maybe after me, you can, Dada, you can say the next. And then others, everyone I'll call. Okay, so how do we understand certain things? As per science, we usually understand certain things by something called pramanam. Pramanam means proof. If we have a proof, and proof in the sense that we can sense some things using our sensory organs, like we can touch, feel, we can smell and all that, either using the senses or some kind of equipment, enhanced senses. Through that, if we can understand or kind of get in direct contact with, then we call the pramanam, it's a proof. Science understands things in terms of proof, but there is one another way to understand certain ideas, and that is through anuman. Anuman means some kind of imaginative, analytical thinking, or you can say hypothesis. For example, Dadaji, Dada Nisunanji mentioned Isaac Newton. He saw the apple falling down. Everybody saw the apple falling down, but nobody thought the way he did. So he was able to imagine that there is some force, something is pulling it down. So that force, that anuman, or some kind of imagination of the mind, combined with a logical hypothesis, that's what formed the basis of making him understand that I don't know whether it's what it is, but I know there is something. It's like in the maths, you have x. You don't know the value of the x, but you know that there is some value. You just don't know how much that value is. Similarly, over the time, people using this anuman, means guessing, by observing, imagining, and guessing, they were able to make that there is existence of some force, some entity, but they don't know what it is. And that gave birth to different kind of religions and dogma and fear. People started to imagine that God is this, God is that. But because there was no ultimate answer, the intellectual exploration continued. And even until today, this exploration keeps on going. But one of the most you can say the formidable concept which has been formed about understanding God is that the theory of cause and effect, which forms the basis of science. And then the theory of controller and controlled. That's another basis of how people have thought about the God. Means this universe has a pattern, it's moving in certain pattern which no one can change it. So there must be some force which is controlling. Similarly, when every object is there, the object has to have a nucleus. So they thought that this universe is very big, huge, very big. But the question is where the universe ends. Where the universe ends. And the point where universe ends, what is beyond that? Nobody can think about that. But science knows that there is something. It doesn't know what is that thing. So the other idea that because every object has to have a nucleus, this universe also has some nucleus. We don't know where is that nucleus, but at least we have anuman. We have imaginative hypothesis calculation that there is a nucleus. Similarly, we know that there is all these three ideas of cause and effect and controller and the controlled and object and nucleus. All of these things combined together form the basis of modern day concept of God or Brahma, whatever it is today. This is definitely an intellectual hypothesis. And when people do meditation and spiritual practices, they go deeper into this idea. But I will conclude by saying that imagine one entity which is also the cause